So obviously there's a lot of hype around the new JBL Boombox 2 because the original Boombox has been super popular for a while now. But the JBL Partybox 300 is also super popular because it's a large portable Bluetooth speaker with a built-in light feature that actually costs the same as the JBL Boombox 2. So let's see how the Boombox 2 stacks up against the Partybox 300. And I'm also going to be including the original boombox in this video because the original boombox might still be attractive to some people who might just want to save some money. So, like I just mentioned, the Boombox 2 and Partybox 300 actually retail for the same price of $500, whereas the original boombox can typically be found on sale for $400 these days. So if you're willing to make some minor compromises with the original boombox, it'll end up saving you $100. So if you want to pick either of these speakers up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to learn more about either of these speakers, please watch their full reviews because we're only going to be going over their main differences. So first off, we need to address the size and designs of these speakers. Both boomboxes have those signature exposed passive radiators on either side. They both have fabric-covered bodies so they can stand up to constant bumps and scrapes whenever you're moving these speakers around, and they're both IPX7 waterproof, so they aren't afraid of water. Overall, both boomboxes are very durable and they can stand up to a good amount of abuse. Whereas the Partybox is a lot more delicate because it has a mostly plastic body, which does like to get scratched up rather easily, and this speaker is not even splash proof. So if this speaker were to get caught in the rain or get a drink spilled on it, you might be in for some trouble. So obviously, if you're looking for a speaker to constantly take on the go with you from location to location, then you're much better off with the Boombox or Boombox 2, because they're not just way more durable, but they're also way lighter, weighing in at 11.5 pounds and 13 pounds, respectively. Whereas the Partybox weighs in at a hefty 35 pounds. So lugging this speaker around is definitely a workout. Now, to keep things simple, if you're looking for a large Bluetooth speaker to use in your room, I highly recommend you just go with a boombox. Whereas if you're looking for a speaker to mainly use in your man cave, garage, or outdoors, then you're better off with the Partybox. But now let's quickly address the light feature found on the Partybox. Now, the JBL Partybox is not the only large box speaker out there with a built-in light feature. But the built-in light feature found on the Partybox is perhaps one of the best looking ones out there. The colors in this light feature are very vibrant and you also have multiple patterns to choose from. But in direct sunlight, this feature is very hard to see. But nonetheless, like I mentioned earlier, this speaker would be a great option if you're looking for a speaker for your man cave slash garage slash gym, because this light feature is pretty cool. But now let's get into the tech specs. Bluetooth-wise, both the original Boombox and the Partybox 300 are both using Bluetooth 4.2, whereas the new Boombox 2 is using Bluetooth 5.1. Now, ultimately, this doesn't really matter because all of these speakers perform the same Bluetooth-wise. They can all be connected to two devices at the same time, so you and a friend can both be DJ, and they all have a slight latency to them whenever you try to watch movies or videos on your phone, whether you're using an iPhone or an Android device. Now, I rarely use any of these speakers to watch videos with, but I do want to point it out just for the monsters that do. Now, when it comes to ports, all three of these speakers have an audio jack, so you can obviously use them with a wired connection, and all of these speakers have a USB-A out port so that you can charge your own devices. But the Partybox does have a few more ports at your disposal. The Partybox has a mic and guitar input if you're into that, but more importantly, the Partybox also has a pair of RCA inputs and outputs. So, if you want, you can either hook the Partybox up to a receiver or to a mixer you might have, or you can daisy chain the Partybox up to another speaker if that other speaker has a pair of RCA inputs. Now, when it comes to battery life, both boomboxes have an advertised battery life of 24 hours, whereas the Partybox 300 has an advertised battery life of 18 hours. But those numbers are for when you're using these speakers at 50% volume. Real-world use with these speakers set at 80% volume, I found that the Partybox 300 is good for around 4 hours of playback time, whereas the Boombox 2 is good for around 7 hours of playback time, and the original Boombox is good for around 8.5 hours of playback time. So if you're looking for the speaker here with the best battery life, then the original Boombox is the way to go. But something that's pretty unique to the Partybox is that it also comes included with a car charger. So you can actually hook it up to your car and play music like that. The only thing to keep in mind here is that when you have it hooked up to your car, the internal battery isn't actually charging. But nonetheless, this is a very useful feature if you're crazy enough to actually lug the Partybox out to like a campsite or to the beach. But it's a great feature to have nonetheless. But now let's talk about actually listening to music with these speakers. So just as you'd expect, since the Partybox 300 is larger than both boomboxes, it's going to get louder and have more bass. Now, the Partybox 300 has a rated output of 120 watts RMS and 240 watts max, whereas the Boombox 2 is rated at 60 watts when it's running off of its internal battery and 80 watts when it's plugged in. And then the original Boombox is rated at 40 watts when it's running off of its internal battery, and it's rated at 60 watts when it's plugged in. So ultimately what this means is that the Boombox 2 is supposed to get louder and have a little bit more bass than the original Boombox, and the Partybox is in a whole other league. Now, when it comes to speaker setups, both boomboxes have dual 4-inch woofers and dual 20mm tweeters shooting out the front, and you've got those signature exposed passive radiators shooting out the sides. And then there's the Partybox 300, which has dual 6.5-inch woofers and 3 2.5-inch tweeters. But keep in mind, this speaker only uses 2 tweeters at a time. So if it's standing upright, it'll use the 2 top ones, and when you've got it on its side like this, it'll use the ones on the side instead. But with all that being said, we're going to be jumping into a sound test. Now, we're going to be comparing these speakers at their max volumes, because I feel that's what most people are interested in.
Watching the ocean with you, baby, up with a slow motion crew, and we up in our clouds when people change, but not us, and we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun, could be soaked to the skin in the monsoon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey, and I don't need to speak a single word. You got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it, and I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding.
So first off, I do want to point out that the sound signature on these speakers are a little different at max volume. Both boomboxes like to put more of an emphasis on the mids and highs than the Partybox does when set at max volume. The Boombox 2 a little more so than the original Boombox. And like I said on the full review, I feel the Boombox 2 can sound very bright at higher volumes, and the highs can get ear-piercing at times. Whereas the Partybox does put an emphasis on the mids, but not so much on the highs. So vocals on the Partybox are pronounced, but the highs don't get as ear-piercing at higher volumes, which is good. And overall, the Partybox does sound fuller at max volume. Now, when used below 80% volume, both boomboxes sound identical to the Partybox sound signature-wise. Like I've mentioned in past videos, both boomboxes really only increase their bass up until they hit 80 or 85% volume. From there on out, really only the mids and highs are getting louder. So at higher volumes, both boomboxes can sound nasally and a little shallow because they don't have the physical bass to back it up. Whereas since the Partybox keeps its sound signature relatively the same no matter how high you increase its volume, it sounds more natural. Now, when it comes to max loudness, both boomboxes do a decent job of keeping up with the Partybox, but keep in mind that's because they're putting an emphasis on the mids and highs. But another major differentiating factor between these speakers is going to be the amount of physical bass you feel in your chest. Obviously, since the Partybox is bigger, you feel the bass more. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if you plug either of these boomboxes in, you'll get a little bit more out of them. They'll both get a little louder and they'll both put out a little bit more bass, but still the Partybox is going to shake your insides way more. Now, the Partybox also has this bass boost button. If you want to get the best battery life out of this speaker, then you should use it with this feature turned off. But if you want to have maximum fun, then you turn this feature on. But keep in mind, it is going to drain the battery a little faster. Now, plenty of other speakers out there have a bass boost button, but the reason why I like the bass feature on the Partybox is because it doesn't really change how your music sounds sound signature-wise. It just adds more physical bass to your music. Because a lot of other speakers out there that do have a bass boost button end up making your speakers sound very muffled because the mids just end up getting buried. So, if you're looking for maximum loudness and maximum bass, then yeah, the Partybox is the way to go, especially if you're looking for a large speaker for your man cave or garage. But if you're looking for a large Bluetooth speaker to mainly use in your room, then I think you're going to be perfectly fine just going with a boombox. Now, when it comes to choosing between the Boombox 2 and the original Boombox, I think you're better off just going with the original Boombox because the Boombox 2 only sounds marginally better than the original Boombox. The only major sacrifice that you'll be making with the original Boombox is that it's a JBL Connect Plus speaker, meaning that you'll only be able to pair the original boombox up to another boombox or to an Extreme 2 or to a Charge 3 or a Charge 4 or a Flip 4 or a JBL Pulse 3 because they're all JBL Connect Plus speakers. So you won't be able to pair the original boombox up to newer or future JBL speakers. Because newer JBL speakers like the Boombox 2, Flip 5, or Pulse 4 are all using Party Boost, and all future JBL speakers that are coming down the pipeline are also going to be using Party Boost until JBL comes out with a new speaker protocol and forces you to upgrade all over again. So it's very important to keep in mind that you cannot pair a Party Boost speaker to a JBL Connect Plus speaker. So right now, for example, you cannot pair a Boombox 2 to an original Boombox. And also keep in mind, you cannot pair a JBL Connect Plus speaker or a Party Boost speaker to a Partybox speaker. You can only pair the Partybox up to one other Partybox. Or you can use the RCA outports that I mentioned earlier. Nonetheless, there definitely is a lot of fragmentation going on right now in JBL speaker lineup. So ultimately, I do think it would just be cool if JBL just had one universal speaker pairing protocol so that you can pair all of these speakers together, but you just can't. But overall, if you've got $500 to spend on a large portable Bluetooth speaker, then I think you're better off with the Partybox 300 if you're looking for something to use in your man cave slash garage slash at home gym. The speaker sounds great, it has a ton of bass to it, and that light feature is one of the best around in my opinion. And if you need to occasionally move your speaker around the garage, or if you want to take it out to the patio, or if you just want to take it somewhere, then you can easily do so and run it off of its built-in battery. But if you need something that's still big but way more portable, then I think you're just better off getting a boombox. Because even though the Partybox 300 is portable, it is a hassle. And like I mentioned earlier, if you just want a large speaker for your room, then just get yourself a boombox. Now, when it comes to choosing between the original boombox and boombox 2, if you're just looking for a single speaker, then I say save yourself some money and get yourself the original boombox, because the boombox 2 only sounds marginally better. The only reason why I would get the Boombox 2 over the original is because I already have a Party Boost speaker, like let's say a Pulse 4, or if I plan on getting more Party Boost speakers in the future. But ultimately, if you're just looking for a single large Bluetooth speaker and you're considering getting a JBL Boombox, then I highly advise you check out the new UE Hyperboom first. That video will be linked right here for you. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit that like button and get subscribed. It helps out more than you realize. If you want to pick another products up mentioned in this video, those will be linked in the description down below, and you can also support the channel by checking out the merch store. But other than that, I'll catch you next time.